Okay, cool. So this panel is gonna work in a way that we're gonna start with a big picture and then we're gonna dive deeper down into what Nostr actually is. So just to get everybody on the same line, Marty, I want to ask you, there's a lot of hype about Nostr, that it's way more than social media, but can you maybe just quickly summarize what is so special about this protocol, this technology in Nostr?
Nostr is the social layer. It's like the self-sovereign identity. No third parties, just public keys, just cryptography.
Okay. And that means like you can actually build different apps on this. That means that it actually, you can utilize it in different ways. And so this part of the panel, we have different clients who actually use it to facilitate different things. One of them is your client, Alex.
Do you remember what it's called?
It is Satlantis, of course, my man. I'm using it. So what do you do with Nostr?
What do we do with Nostr? So I think just to riff off what Marty said before is, and for those who were here on the last panel, you would have heard me say this, but I'll just reiterate it now, is Nostr opens, it's an identity layer for the web, or I heard Million once say this actually last year, it's a rich identity for the web, right? Maybe that was you, maybe it was someone else. And in my opinion, what it does is it opens up a new design space for the web. So you can build applications in a way that is novel and different to what we had before. So if you think of what the web has traditionally been, it's like these 4 protocol layers. Now with Bitcoin and with Nostr, you have a monetary protocol and you have an identity protocol. And that just creates a new design space, because with 4 layers, we built everything from Amazon to Google to Uber to Airbnb. Like we built all of this like cyberspace. Now imagine what you can do if payments are native and if identity is not a feature inside an application, but if it's a layer on the web. And you know, for me personally, like I don't care if it's Nostr or something else. Like the breakthrough is that you have identity as a protocol. That to me is the important thing. And Nostr seems to be the one that is leading the race for that, because there's obviously a bunch of others which suck. Nostr is by far, in my opinion, the best, which is why we chose to build on it. So for us as an application developers, we want to build something new, which is for travel, for sovereignty, for nomading, for food, for events, for all this kind of stuff. So when we look at that, I say, all right, I want a way to connect all of these different things to people in the real world. So what is that? That's a social network. That's a social graph. And Nostr, being an open identity protocol, allows us to use it in such a way that it is a social graph, that we can connect people for preferences, for interests, for ideas, for all of these things. So I think that's in my opinion, the way to look at Nostr is tool, use it to enhance and give your application features and functionality that weren't available before on the old stack.
Okay. And
long explanation, sorry.
Yeah, it's a very long explanation, and I think it also for non-technical people, I think it might be hard to understand what this actually means. But like Miljan, to look into this, like Svetsky just said, it's open, it's an open technology, it's better than all the other technologies who tried to facilitate that. What are kind of the opportunities with Nostr that other technologies aren't able to actually facilitate?
Well, the main opportunity here that Nostr gives us is the ability to re-implement everything, the entire internet, in a way that is actually open, not controlled by a handful of companies. Currently, the predicament we're in is that the internet is captured by, like half a dozen companies. And we exist online by us seeking permission from them. Every action that we do online, starting with creating an account, is seeking permission from Twitter or other, Facebook or a few other companies to, first of all, exist on their network, and then for every operation, every action that we perform, post something. Hey, can I please post something? Will you, or more precisely, will you post this for me? And same thing goes for even viewing the content. Will you, can I see my feed, please? Whatever it is that you told me that the feed should be. So Nostr is a foundational protocol that allows us to re-implement the internet that's worth having. The internet that's actually open and that's actually controlled by the users. And the beautiful thing about Nostr, and one of the, what makes me feel so bullish about it, is the fact that it's so simple. At its very foundation, it's basically trivial. And then we kind of build layers on top of it. And I have no doubt, even though, like, we're facing some uphill battles in terms of growth and kind of capturing network effects away from these giants and so forth. So it's going to be a long grind, I have no doubt. But I also have no doubt that we will succeed. And this is openness at the end of the day will win out here.
Yeah, I'm just questioning, because all of us here are Bitcoiners, all of us are kind of like techies to a certain degree. And Jordi, you're talking to the people actually on the ground. And I mean, yeah, all of us, we know why censorship resistance is important, okay? Not your keys, not your identity or Nostr. But Jordi, you talk to people who are not in our bubble here. Like, do they actually care about this? Do they need a solution for this yet?
Right, so yeah, as you say, Mike, so my job is to go to local economies, local communities that are looking for freedom. It's like, we Bitcoiners are looking for freedom. We discover Bitcoin through maybe financial scope or the financial sphere. And we discover that money Bitcoin gives us financial freedom in that space. But once you go to some communities that they don't care about that or they don't have time to talk about that, I realize that they care about freedom. They just are not triggered by the keywords Bitcoin, Nostr, censorship resistant, decentralization. They don't care about that. But people, once you tell them that they can own their own identity, as we were saying before, that they don't need to ask permission to do things, they are interested. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, people care, but as soon as you say some taboo words, you lose them. So I think that we Bitcoiners should start thinking about the no-coiners and talk their language to onboard them. And that's what I do. So I go to communities and I just talk about, I say freedom technologies, for example, and I never say Bitcoin, and I never say Nostr, until they come up with, oh, is this something related to blockchain? Or are you talking about Bitcoin? And then maybe say, maybe, what have you heard of it? And this is the way that I think that we should onboard like these groups of people that they care, they just don't know. And Bitcoin, at least based on my experience traveling all over the world talking to these people, has still a negative connotation for the normies.
Yeah, I mean, when building those apps or clients, all of you building it, you have trade-offs to face, right? It's like, okay, decentralization, what's the performance? And one of them is kind of the user experience as well, where if you talk to those people, yeah, they might not even know what a key pair is. They've never, they know what a password is and an account. They want an email and that's it. So how do you, Marty, how do you balance that, like when our goal is to Nostr adoption, but also making sure that the fundamentals of Nostr are not being lost by kind of like just taking all decisions away from them? Like, where on the scale of between decentralization, performance, and user experience do you see yourself taking different trade-offs?
I mean, as long as users control their own keys, things are pretty good when keys are on the client side and not managed by some trusted third party. Obviously, we don't have the same resources to develop the UX as big tech companies. That can be a problem sometimes. We're doing something novel here. We need to do a lot of stuff on the client side that is kind of novel, especially in the browser environment where I work with iris.to.
You mentioned also at some point that like you're very like bearish about the extensions, right? The login extensions, because you say it's basically, or I don't know if you said it, but I heard lately that those browser extensions are basically just like MetaMask, the equivalent. Like, it's not a good user experience to just give them your NSEC. And I see, Svetsky, you're very much on that.
I fucking hate extensions.
Yeah, tell me why.
Look, the approach we're taking is a little bit different to, I guess, what Marty's doing. Marty's more cypherpunk. He's the OG cypherpunk, actually. Than what I am and then what our target market is, right? So we are trying to obfuscate Nostr as much as possible. So, for example, our sign-up flow has a normie sign-up. You can do email, Google, or Apple if you want, and we create the key pair for you, and we store it for you. Now, Nostr purists will be like, oh, you're doing the wrong thing. But for the people who are not interested in storing their keys, or who are more likely to lose their keys than keep it safe, like, this is actually a better solution for them until such time that it's important for them to take control of their identity. So we have we call those three mechanisms, email, Google, and Apple, normie sign up. But then we also have the Nostr login. So you can, if you are a Nostr sort of native, or if you are a maxi for like own my identity and all of that, you have that option. So I think optionality is very key in the way we are trying to approach it. So that way we benefit both. Now, what we do under the hood is that every single account is still a Nostr account. So whether you sign up with email or Google or Apple, it's still a key pair, but you just as a normie user don't know. Maybe if you hang around Nostr for 6 months, a year, or 2 years, or whatever, you can see that, hey, I can export my NSEC, or I can copy my NPub. What the hell is this thing? Okay, well, I can put that into another app. What the fuck's going on? And then people find that and discover it themselves, as opposed to blocking them from the beginning by being like, this is the only option. And look, everything has trade-offs, right? The trade-off here is that we have to now store these people's keys. So it's like a little bit anti-cypherpunk, but which trade-off do you make, and who is your target market? So for me, as a business owner, as a builder, I'm less interested in the protocol. I'm more interested in what the user needs. And that's a different approach, because then I'm building for them, not for the shiny toy that is this new decentralized protocol.
I remember actually, so I'm a millennial, so the internet basically just worked for me. I never needed to figure out anything like coding into modems or stuff like that. But when I joined Nostr, everything was fucked. I remember I had to upload my picture to some web server, so I needed to understand how this works, copy the web address of this into my client, and then update it on Nostr. So the sign-up flow was horrible. But today it looks completely different. Right now it kind of just works. I know that Primal, you figured out a very, very clean sign-up flow. What were the things where you identified like that new people actually struggle with? What did you need to actually make very, very clear? I know that algorithms and follow packs are like the new hype. What are your learnings about like the sign-up process of new people?
So just in general, I think when building these products based on some Freedom Tech stack, the biggest challenge for product creators is to balance out the set of trade-offs. So there's, as our friends Gigi and Pablo like to say, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. So you can make the most cypherpunk solution where the user has to do everything by themselves, like in the early days of Nostr. And the crazy, psychopaths who are super into this, they'll do it. Like all of us, fall in that group, I think. We went ahead and did it because we wanted to participate in this network. So you create your own key pair, you find a file hosting service somewhere to host your avatar, you upload it there, you stitch together, some probably Nostr events, send them to relays, probably run your own relay here and there. Then for payments, you create a self-custodial Lightning setup where you manage channels and liquidity, and then you host your own Lightning address, and you actually can do all of these things yourself, which is amazing. Nostr gives us that opportunity. You can have any level of sovereignty on Nostr that you wish. So the earliest cohort of Nostr users did all of those things. And people who weren't super, deeply immersed in this space tried to use Nostr, and they were like, what is this? So when designing products that the next cohort of users can use, which was really the challenge that we took on at Primal. So it wasn't like even attacking the global, like everyone yet. It was more like, okay, what does the next cohort of users look like, and what do they need, and what are the trade-offs that are likely going to work for them? At Primal, we decided that self-custody of the Nostr key itself, so the identity on the network, was non-negotiable for us, for Primal. And I completely understand the decision that that's not the right decision maybe for some other products like Satlantis. Fine, and there were other cases like Zebedee and many other products that chose that path. And if you're targeting the widest possible audience right now, well, that's probably correct in terms of UX. So we didn't want to compromise on the self-custody of the key, but when it came to things like hosting your images and stuff like that, hosting your media, we stood up a media hosting service that just worked out of the box. When it came to payments and the ability to do zaps online, we decided to implement a custodial Lightning wallet, which, in our opinion, is the correct set of trade-offs for this scenario, where you're keeping a relatively small amount of money. In fact, we built Primal Wallet, which Primal has a built-in custodial wallet. We built it in a way that it has, basically, we're enforcing maximum balances. So we're not allowing you to, store more than $1,000 in our custody. These are meant to be kind of casual payments and something that's just easy to use and works out of the box. So these are the set of trade-offs that we've carefully selected after analyzing all the pros and cons. And I think it turned out to be appropriate for that next cohort of Nostr users. And we have a reasonably smooth onboarding experience. And now we're looking at ways to improve that moving forward. I think one of the challenges have to do with onboarding people and then the type of content that they see and the people who they follow and so forth. And I think these new follow packs, which, by the way, we just released an update today on Primal that includes follow packs. That's a nice improvement overall across the entire Nostr ecosystem, not just Primal. So I think we can see the evolution of these capabilities and kind of ease of use of Nostr-based products. It's much easier today than it was a couple of years ago. And it's reasonable to project out that this is going to be as easy to use as a lot of the legacy controlled platforms.
Yeah, that's true. Marty, how is it in Iris? Do you take a similar approach as Primal regarding the sign-up flow?
Yeah, well, Iris, I'm also trying to hide all the normie unfriendly stuff. Iris sign-up is real simple. You just type in your name, press enter. I've hidden all the cryptography stuff, and instead of some clients displaying like for users who don't have a username, they might display their public key. I don't do that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So like the general trend I see is kind of like making it normie friendly. Some of them still like give the cypherpunks actually the possibility to do everything themselves, but make it also kind of hidden a little bit. So that's my next point kind of is on that, because we always talk about Nostr, but I think it's so hard for people to understand what Nostr is. So I'm kind of like just questioning into this round, should we stop shilling Nostr? And
Yes.
Okay. Because
It's
like
settled then, I guess.
okay, panel over. No, Jordi, you talk with a lot of people. Do you mention Nostr? Do you have like issues explaining it? Because it's still this big thing. Oh, you have so many opportunities, but it's so hard to grasp what it actually is.
Yeah, and sometimes I go to Bitcoin communities, and we Bitcoiners, we care about Nostr. Doesn't mean that all of us have a Nostr user pair of keys, but we heard of it. But we don't have time. Oh, I don't have time. I heard of it. I'm procrastinating. I will do it. So even we Bitcoiners that put the hours, that put the time to go into the rabbit hole of cryptography, public, private key, and all this, we say we care, but we don't really care. So that's why I say that when I approach to people on the ground, no, I don't. I can give like a lot of metaphors. I say, no, we're Bitcoiners, so probably you have the Primal app and you have some sats there, and maybe you have the wallet of Satoshi. look, they are different apps, but they run under the same underlying protocol. They understand, okay, yes, Bitcoiners understand this. Or when I talk to people that is not Bitcoiner, I say, okay, you use email, right? You can send me an email from Gmail, and I will receive it on Outlook. And then I will copy Alex on Proton, and it all works. So you see, it's like I'm not saying send me a Gmail or send me a Proton. I say send me an email. All right, so then people understand this. But then it's also the people that don't know about technology, which is most of the people. We're here, we're in a bubble. So then to these people, I don't say anything. I don't use this type of metaphors because.
So do you say it's a new type of social, like nomad app in your case, or?
So yeah, this is how we Atlantis are presented to the world. It's like we are a super app for digital nomads, frequent travelers, sovereign citizens, and all that. And only the ones that are crazy enough to say, how does it work? I use this other metaphor that hasn't even anything to do with technology. I say like fine dining protocol. So yesterday I was invited to this dinner, and I said, okay, what am I supposed to wear? What's the protocol? We all agree to sit down on this table, and then somebody will, like a waiter will serve us the water, then will be like the cutlery served like this. And I say, this is a set of rules. And only like to these people I say, look, you see, we agreed on a set of rules, and on top of these rules, we can do whatever. I can serve you soup, I can serve you a dinner, or whatever. But only if they ask, because nobody cares. Yeah. They don't care.
Yeah. Okay. Alex, you said we shouldn't shield Nostr anymore.
No, I mean, I think one of the biggest problems, but this is a problem that is intrinsic to the age and the stage that this protocol is at, right? So it's still young, it's still early, and people are going to talk about it. But what I have noticed is that we go and try to sign up people outside of the Nostr space, so sort of like travelers and lifestyle people and all this sort of stuff. And when they jump on the app, if they see a bunch of like, sorry Derek, but if they see a bunch of Derek Ross good mornings and shit like that, they're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like this app, like people are talking about Nostr, what is it? Like they don't care. So you got to kind of like, I feel like there has to come a point when we mature past, I'm just going to say it, circle jerking ourselves about Nostr on Nostr, right? Like we got to like talk about other things. And again, I'm not criticizing it itself, it's just this is the stage that it's at. So we just have to go through this. But my point is that at some stage we need to go beyond it, and Nostr needs to become a place where people are talking about other things, like in the real world, not about fucking Nostr. Like talk about travel, talk about what you're eating, talk about what you're doing, talk about like there's so much content out there that is possible. But if people's Nostr feed is just full of talking about Nostr, it's going to remain this echo chamber. So I think that's in my opinion, the sooner we shut the fuck up about that and talk about something else, the more it'll start attracting people from elsewhere. Yeah. My opinion.
I remember last year there was like a lot of hype and talk about those micro communities that like, oh, we're gonna have like a cat stir and we're gonna have this. I feel like this has not really happened or materialized. I don't know if what is the ultimate. Is it going to be like the future if we look into like 5 to 10 years into the future? Is it just going to be a tech stack, as you said before, that like enables futuristic apps? Or is it really, okay, I'm a Nostrich. Is this just because we're so early and we identify so much with it and it's going to fade out? Like Miljan, like what do you think Nostr is going to be in 5 years? Is it just another technology which is behind a lot of apps, or will it be the social revolution of like, oh yeah, fuck Facebook, fuck Twitter? Where are we heading to? I know that's a very vague and open question, but...
Great question. I'm curious.
I think Nostr is going to consume everything simply because it's going to end up having the best content and the best features of the products that are built on top of it. It's not, and to Alex's point, talking about Nostr is eventually going to become less important, right? It's the openness of the network that's going to enable this over time. And we'll have to onboard different cohorts of people, different groups and so forth before this kind of plays out. I don't know if in your question, if you set out like a time frame of 5 years. Did I hear that? Okay.
Yeah.
So 5 years might not still be the kind of long enough a time frame where this fully plays out, but currently we're looking at a bunch of closed silos everywhere. They're kind of where the walls are getting taller in each of these proprietary silos, and some of the kind of quasi-proprietary silos, like let's say Blue Sky or whatever the protocol, the AT protocol, whatever they call it. Nostr is the only truly open one, and the fact that this is the case will eventually bring everything over. And kind of let me underline this point by giving an example. Let's take long-form textual content, so blogs, essays, articles, those types of things. Currently, you have one closed silo, which is called Substack. Then you have another closed silo called Medium. And then recently, X also has articles and so forth. So you publish an article on any one of those, and it only exists there, probably behind some kind of, maybe not a paywall, but a login wall, right, for you to even see it. In comparison, when you publish an article on Nostr, it exists on an open Nostr network, and it's accessible to any Nostr app that wishes to work with the long-form content type. So when users interact with this, let's say when they create a highlight or when they comment and so forth, those artifacts also exist on an open network and are available to any, currently we have like dozens or hundreds of apps on Nostr that have access to that. So I think when you play this out for every content type, not just long-form articles, but literally everything, you end up at a place where, Alex was talking about maybe a year or so ago in your blog post about, reviews being on Nostr, where, it's on an open network and you might be reading reviews about a book or a restaurant and so forth, but the person who posted the review is, you can see how you're connected with them in the social graph, and this becomes a superior product because of the ability to kind of calculate relevancy to you, right? So when we gather enough content on Nostr, I think this kind of starts snowballing, and it just becomes a superior, higher signal experience across the board. That is why we're going to win, I think, in the long run. But it's going to be a grind, I admit.
Yeah. So regarding that, I feel like we're getting into a stage where like Nostr is slowly but surely growing up. And one of the things which is required for this is actually have a viable business model as running clients, actually making money. So a lot was bootstrapped right now with grants, and I also want to get your takes about actually VC funding or grants. But Marty, how do you see the future of actually monetizing Iris, for example? What are your takes on actually making money by building on Nostr as a business?
Yeah, so I just recently launched Iris subscriptions. So go subscribe if you want to support open source. You get some hosting for Nostr content and media on the top. Yes, you need to build a sustainable business. I think e-commerce is one viable direction I want to explore. Any place where you move money is where money is to be made. I think Nostr can do many of these applications so much better than legacy platforms. That's where I want to go.
Okay. Alex, you've been very vocal about anti-Nostr grants. What is your problems with actually building on a grant base?
I mean, I don't think I've been very vocal against it. I just think there's some caution that's needed. So I think the approach that has generally happened with grants is to support protocol level work, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I think sometimes if the grants spill into commercial work, you create this incentive, which is a non-market incentive. It's close to communism, right? It's like, here's some money, build whatever you want, but there's no pressure from the market to actually build something that has product market fit or that solves a problem, right? So that's it. Grants are very tricky in that sense. And because Nostr is this sort of open source network, blah, 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 the grants can kind of bleed into the wrong places. So I think that's just tricky. But coming back to business models, I mean, I know there's a lot of hate around like, oh, ads are evil and all this sort of shit. It's not. Advertising, marketing has existed since the beginning of time and will exist until the end of time. The question is, can we do it better and different using these new tools, right? You asked the question earlier, which was, is Nostr going to become the rallying cry and fuck Facebook and Nostr, or is it going to become just another tool? My hope is that it just becomes another fucking tool. We stop talking about it, because then it's just part of the stack and we build with it, and then millions of other businesses will build with it, right? I feel like the opposite, if it goes like Nostr is the crusade, then I think it diminishes the amount of applications that will ever be built on it. So if it becomes just another part of the stack, then the question is, how do we do advertising in a way that's intelligent? How do you do memberships? Like, memberships are a fucking no-brainer. Like, the world is moving more and more and more towards clubs and members and groups and communities. You can monetize the shit out of that. Creators are doing that already on Instagram, LinkedIn, School, all these other applications. So we see the business models there. We can bring them here. You use Bitcoin as native payments. You use Nostr as identity. You can whitelist things. You can create communities. So you have just a better toolkit. And then as an entrepreneur, you need to figure out how to establish a business model that can make money, which is a big part of what we're doing. I mean, one of the features in Atlantis is events. So instead of going and using Luma or Meetup.com and all of these junk, in the next month, 2, 3, we'll introduce ticketing inside Atlantis. So you can host an event, you can post it to your feed, people can RSVP inside the feed, they can see who else is there, they can follow them, they can see where the place is being hosted, all in the one application, and they can buy the ticket with sats in the one app. Like, that's a superior experience than discovering the event on Instagram, going to Meetup, creating another fucking account on Meetup, signing up there, seeing, not even seeing the attendees or not knowing who they are, then going to the event, then meeting the attendees, scanning their WhatsApp, connecting with them. Like, you're on 10 different applications to do the same thing that you could do on one app. And how would we monetize events? Well, we allow events and ticketing on a membership version of the product, or we just charge a small percentage on ticket sales. So there's all of these things, they already exist. I just think sometimes we lose sight of the business and we're trying to like do all of this other fluffy stuff that's good for the world and good for society and all this sort of shit. That stuff comes, but make the business first.
Yeah. Primal has actually experimented a lot with different monetization models. One, which actually I'm very surprised how good it worked, was like monetizing digital status to a certain degree. With a legend one, you get actual additional storage to update something. But I'm still amazed. You can see, if you go on Primal, you can see who's getting legend status. And you see people actually wanting to support you guys, wanting the legend status. So how has that been working for you guys? From my perspective, it looks pretty amazing how you've kind of structured that so far. And now with the Primal Studios, it's another monetization model. Tell us about your experimentation there.
Yeah, we were surprised when we launched that, how successful that was. And the only reason why we even tried it in the first place was because Gigi kind of yelled at me for a while, for a couple of days, and then I decided to go ahead and try it, right?
If Gigi yells at you, you do what he says, right?
That's right. I mean, I like to say on my team and kind of among our friends that at such an early stage in this protocol's development, we need to fuck around and find out. We need to try a bunch of different things. We can't just... I think it's wrong to, of course, to completely rely on grants. It's very important to monetize. It's important to get a real market signal from real users. Yes, some of the user support is kind of altruistic. It's actual support. But I think what we're finding with Primal, if we put together more kind of a compelling package at the right price, people react. So basically, our premium tier is a good example. This legend experiment that we ran the last few months was also kind of successful. But now with Primal Pro, which we launched today, we were able to basically roll out this legend status into an actual professional account along with a lot of other features which we think professionals need. So we're going to continue to FAFO, and we'll share our experience with the rest of the network, and hopefully we all learn.
I like that. I think that's a good place to stop it. I think Nostr, we gotta fuck around and find out, because that's how we actually get, hopefully, a healthy new internet, new applications which haven't been possible before. And yeah, thank you for fucking around and finding us for all of us non-techies, because I'm just a user. But yeah, if anybody out there isn't on Nostr yet, didn't check out Satlantis, Iris, or Primal, I think just do it. Just fuck around. You're gonna find out if Nostr is something for you, if you need it. But yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Secure your BTC Prague 2026 ticket at the lowest possible price now.